seriously popular.
Hey Kelly, it's Super Bowl Monday and the Philadelphia Eagles stomped the Kansas City Chiefs last night.
They sure did. Also, President Donald Trump has defeated Taylor Swift.
What a game, and we'll get into all of that and more right after this break.
Welcome to MAGAland.
Welcome back to MAGAland. Let's start with the biggest news first. The Super Bowl was yesterday, and the online debate circled around two videos of crowd reactions to Taylor Swift and Donald Trump. Kelly, what did you see?
Well, it sure was a wild night for politics and for the pros playing football. Donald Trump entered the Superdome Arena in New Orleans to an astounding applause. When he was showed on the big jumbo screen, the crowd went wild, which I thought was pretty cool. Meanwhile, when the crowd was shown a picture of Taylor Swift, there were astounding boos across the entire stadium. So it's pretty embarrassing for the pop star. She looked a little flustered. She turned to Ice Spice next to her. She seemingly said, "What's going on here? I don't know what's happening." And Trump just ate it up. He was going crazy on True Social. He was laying into Taylor Swift, saying she has no fans or support. The MAGA crowd clearly hates her. He was really living it up during that contrast between his cheers and her boos. What did you see, Charlie?
It seemed like a very pro-Eagles audience. They seemed to be louder and more rowdy than the Chiefs fans. I don't know if that means that there were more Eagles fans in the audience. Even when the Chiefs took the field, it almost sounded like there were more people booing than cheering, which is not something that they're used to and not something that Taylor Swift is used to. It's almost as if she's never heard booing before, the way she reacted. And it just very critical for her at that moment to be up there with her friends. And even while Travis Kelce was down missing passes on the field, just not a good day for either Swifties or the Chiefs fans.
It's worth noting, too, that Taylor Swift used to be an Eagles fan. When she was just getting her start in the music industry, she would often wear Eagles jerseys when she was performing in the Philly area. So she did a real 180 with the Chiefs, and I think that really stuck with Eagles fans, and they don't forget much. So it really came out during the Super Bowl yesterday. I also wanted to note that Trump also took a shot at the new kickoff rules of the NFL. He was going on a tear on True Social saying, why are all the players standing around during the kickoff? They should be running like they do in college football. This was a change actually this season. He clearly thinks it's not as entertaining, which I thought was a funny thing for him to point out during the Super Bowl.
Not popular with NFL fans who like the old kickoff rules, and certainly he's right to single out that issue to criticize. Noticeably, he did not get into issues of race or the Black national anthem or standing or kneeling for the flag or the national anthem. He didn't even weigh in on the halftime performance. I think Trump just settled with Taylor Swift and the kickoff rules. Also interesting, his staff was sharing images of him. They didn't really show this on TV, but images of him meeting with the victims of the terrorist attack that they were honoring with some of the families of the victims. Trump went down on the field and met with some of those. So there is a little behind the scenes information that we found out. It wasn't just Trump standing up there and soaking it all in.
And I thought it was notable he brought his daughter, Ivanka, his son, Eric, Don Jr. They were all in attendance with some of their young kids, which I thought was fun to see. We saw Trump interacting with some of his grandkids when he was on the field briefly. I thought it was a nice moment that they did in honor for all the first responders who responded to the horrible terror attack and those who tragically lost their lives on the New Year's Day. And that's really the President Trump that we've come to see. He comes in at a time of crisis. He speaks with families. He talks to those impacted by drought, devastation, fires, terror attacks. And that seems to be one of the key reasons why he decided to come to the Super Bowl this year.
Trump sent out that statement before he arrived saying the Super Bowl should represent a moment of great unity for our country as we come together and watch these two teams play. I found it interesting that the broadcasters did not spend a lot of time focusing on Trump or Taylor Swift. A couple quick shots we saw here and there, but overall it was mostly focused on the players and obviously the Philadelphia Eagles just absolutely stomping the Kansas City Chiefs in that match. There was a lot of hubbub about whether or not Trump left early because he didn't want to see the Chiefs lose. I think we had some articles today that pointed out that no, President Trump was always going to leave at halftime. That was what he was scheduled with. Makes it easier for him to get out of the stadium without disrupting everyone else trying to leave at the end of the game.
Kendrick Lamar some grief because a lot of people are saying that he had the worst halftime performance in history. So if Trump stayed during the whole thing, he might have put out some aggressive tweets or truths against him. I personally thought it was pretty boring. I was scrolling Twitter, I was scrolling Instagram during the halftime performance. I don't think it was super engaging. I think you need more of a performer to take over the halftime show where you're jumping from stage right to stage left and theatrics. I think that was what was really missing during the halftime show this year.
I was really trying to understand what Kendrick was saying. I know that I'm certainly not the target audience for the halftime show, but I found it very interesting that Samuel Jackson dressed up as Uncle Sam, voicing the opinion of what he thought America was trying to tell him and how he was trying to push back against America. I thought that was a very interesting way to create disunity at a moment when everyone else is seeking for unity.
And Trump, on his way to the Super Bowl, actually signed a proclamation declaring February 9th the, quote, Gulf of America Day. It was while he was actually flying from Florida to New Orleans over the Gulf of America. That kind of stirred up quite the controversy with the press who were following him on board on Air Force One. Let's dissect this a little bit. What sort of day is this? Does this mean that the name is officially stuck? Will it be changed on Google Maps, or what are we really dealing with here?
I'm really interested to check in with Jeff, who was on that trip, and it'd be interesting to see what his takeaway was. It almost felt like it was a spur of the moment decision where Trump realizes he's flying over the Gulf of America for the first time, wants to recognize that, wants to bring the press in to celebrate that moment. Maybe that was always the plan, but it really felt very unique. It's certainly not going to be a federal holiday. The sort of national proclamations of official days has gotten away written regarding to the federal government. So I wonder if February 9th of next year, we're going to really be celebrating this, or if it was a one-time shot.
Another move that Trump made yesterday was officially saying that he's going to rid the United States of the penny. He says it costs more than 2 cents to make a penny, and it's just a waste of money. One of his other DOJ directives to look into where there is fraud and misuse of money across the government. What do you think about it? Are you happy, sad, perplexed to lose the penny? Personally, I think it's fine. I never really carry around change in my wallet. I think most people have moved to credit card only system, and you don't really need change, especially something so little as a penny. But it is quite a move, and it's causing quite the stir online.
It'll be very interesting, Kelly. How do you buy $4.99 of gas without getting your penny change? It seemed like gas stations and the little free penny jar right next to the cashier, I think that's going to be hardest hit. I immediately felt like maybe it's time for me to go out and get a couple of rolls of pennies to mark the last day of the penny. But in the end, I think that when you don't really use pennies anymore, and if we're going to look at all the other coins, maybe we should get rid of all of the other lower coins except for the quarter. I think the quarter is the only coin that is actually used on a regular basis. Everything else is merely bits of change. I think that would save a lot of money and make it a very forceful first step.
We'll be right back with more on Welcome to MAGAland after this. Welcome back to MAGAland. DOJ uncovered that FEMA has been using $59 million to house illegal migrants in luxury hotels. And now Elon Musk has set his sights on FEMA as the next agency to be completely dismantled. Charlie, what's your takeaway from DOJ's complete overhaul of the government and how they're really dissecting every single agency step by step, going through all their finances and really stripping out anything that isn't needed?
On Friday, it was very encouraging to see that President Trump wanted to have DOJ investigate the Pentagon for all their spending. Recall that Donald Trump passed the biggest military spending bill back in his first term. And it would just be so good to see how much money the Pentagon has used, that record amount of funding, to either rebuild the military, or has it all gone to waste? That would be fascinating. Also, the idea that FEMA is spending $59 million to house illegal immigrants in luxury hotels, that's something that the Republicans got on the Biden administration about, and they repeatedly said that that wasn't happening. I think that auditing FEMA is a great idea, especially at a time when it's come under so much scrutiny. I think it's very important to prove to Americans that these funds are going to people in need, people you see on television in California and North Carolina that are actually suffering, rather than pushing out more funds towards illegal immigration and putting them up in luxury hotels owned by foreign governments. That's not something that's very positive for the American people at this point.
There's also one Daily Mail exclusive that we'll reveal on MAGAland today. It's being written up right now by John Michael Rash, a reporter who covers Congress for our team. Basically, Doge has uncovered that there's about $2.3 million being spent for, quote, virtual DEI trainings, specifically for the Space Force and the Air Force. These trainings offered an entire experience to build frontline supervisors as they worked on, quote, difficult DEI conversations. They said that they were used to mix of a modernized learning tool and virtual reality experiences. So this is a lot of money going towards something that doesn't really seem that tangible. It's shocking that it was $2.3 million. And because of our reporting, that's being stripped away. So wanted to get your take on that, Charlie.
When you think Air Force, Space Force, and virtual training, you would optimally hope that they're using these virtual training programs to actually go to war, fire missiles, blow up satellites, make sure that our warfighters are among like the most highly trained individuals in this space. Picturing the idea of virtual training and DEI, that's like a dual threat of peak government inefficiency when you're just sitting there going through virtual exercises of uncomfortable conversations. That's not really what you would want to see our warfighters doing. I'm sure this is some brilliant government contract that was like, we're going to save all this money because we won't have to bring the people in person to actually go through these uncomfortable programs. If you pay me millions of dollars, we can just do it virtually and save a lot of time and money. That sounds like a typical government solution that maybe we just get rid of it entirely.
Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, said that he's working very closely with Elon Musk to find these sort of programs and reroute the money so it'll go directly toward war fighting and war fighters and build up the prowess of the United States military as opposed to these sort of weird trainings that aren't accomplishing a lot in terms of getting military fighters ready for war, which is what the Pentagon is supposed to be doing.
It's funny. I talked to some sources in the DC area branches that said the switch from Biden to Trump was very intently felt over there. There were staffers that literally walked down the halls tearing down DEI material and DEI posters after Trump was elected. And the message has been very clear in DC that they're not playing with DEI messaging anymore, and they're not doing anything with pronouns either. So very big change over there. We're going to keep finding out about this every single day, I feel like.
Definitely. And when it comes to Trump, he also did a quite controversial statement over the weekend. He said that he would not deport Prince Harry. And then he took a jab at Prince Harry's wife, Meghan Markle, saying that he already has enough problems with Meghan. We won't deport him. Right now, Harry's going through a back and forth in courts about his visa. What do you think Trump has against Meghan Markle?
I certainly think that he's not happy with how she mistreated the royal family. And we at the Daily Mail, our colleagues in Britain, cover this pretty extensively. And I don't think he was pleased with how they treated the royal family. Trump loves the Queen. He knows his mother loved the Queen. He's very enchanted by the entire idea. He said that Prince William was turning out to be a fine young man. So that sort of sets up their relationship as they go forward. Not any commentary about King Charles very much at this point. So those will be some awkward exchanges, I imagine, in the future. But when it comes to Meghan Markle, I think that it's really all about the royal family. I think that he feels that Meghan Markle blew up the family for her own advantage and stole Prince Harry away, which is how a lot of the British people feel. And it came right as both Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are going to Canada to kick up press about the Invictus Games. So it really puts him back in the spotlight.
Yeah, and Prince Harry actually had the thinly veiled job back at Trump while he was in Vancouver for the Invictus Games. He criticized the, quote, weak moral character of the world during his statement. He was saying that there is no shortage of crises and uncertainty, and there's weak moral character around the globe. And so these games are important for instilling courage and resilience among world leaders, which I thought was an interesting and backhanded way to jab at Trump after he said those comments about his wife. If I were Prince Harry, I would just stand up for my wife and say, hey, Trump, don't mess with Meghan. Don't mess with me. There's nothing you can do or something like that. I don't know why he had to do it in such a weird softball way.
We all know they have a hard time keeping experienced PR hands in that group. High turnover over there. And yeah, I think that Harry would have been better off saying, thank you, America, for not kicking me out. But we would also hope that you would respect my wife, who is a lifelong American and does a lot for the country or whatever else he wants to send. Typically, you don't fire back when the president has that power to either kick you out or let you stay.
Yeah, that's fair. And we'll see if it comes up at all on Meghan's new Netflix show that's been postponed. Well, that's it for us on MAGAland today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Hermione and I will be back on Wednesday.
Remember to email us at welcome-to-magaland@dailymail.com and follow us on Instagram at welcome-to-magaland.